If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Adeptus Custodes Sagittarum Deep Dive. The Adeptus Custodes have 6 different detachments now. With every detachment or balance update, I see the question, are Sagittarum good now? We will answer that question by taking a look at the Sagittarum datasheet, then each of our 6 detachments. Do any of these detachments turn this Forgeworld ranged Custodes into a ranged damaged monster on the tabletop? Let's start with the Sagittarum datasheet. The Sagittarum have a movement of 6, toughness of 6, 2-up save with a 4-up invulnerable, 3 wounds, 6 leadership, and an OC of 2. For the ranged weapons, we have the Adeptus bolt caliber, 36-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 5, AP 1, damage 2, with sustained hits 1. The melee weapons, there is only one option, the Misericordia, 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 5, AP 2, damage 1. For the abilities, we have Deep Strike, Martial Kata, Saturation Volleys, and Disintegration Beams. We can only take a unit of 5 Custodians, we can't take a 4, or anything higher than 5 models in a Sagittarum unit. The abilities, Saturation Volleys, in your shooting phase, after this unit has shot, select one enemy unit, excluding monster and vehicles, hit by one or more of those attacks until the start of your next turn. While this unit is on the battlefield, that enemy is suppressed. While that unit is suppressed, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. That can be a ranged attack or a melee attack. Disintegration Beams, once per battle at the start of your shooting phase, this unit can use this ability. If it does, until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in this unit have the Devastating Wounds ability. For attaching a leader into the Sagittarum, if an Adeptus Custodes model from your army with the leader ability can be attached to a Custodian Guard unit, it can be attached to this unit instead. Now let's take a look at the good and the bad with the Sagittarum datasheet. 3 attacks could be better. We could roll some 6s for the sustained hits 1, making up for the low amount of attacks. It is the AP 1 that kills the damage potential of the Sagittarum. It is more common for an enemy unit to have cover than not in 10th edition. They might as well have AP 0 guns. If you compare the bolt caliber to the Guardian Spear, there is not a big difference between 2 shots, strength 4, AP 1, damage 2, and 3 shots, strength 5, AP 1, damage 2. It does help into toughness 4 Space Marine profiles, there's no denying that, but what about the melee? The melee compared to the Custodian Guard or the Alaris or even the Wardens is not even close. The Sagittarum have a Misericordia, 4 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 5, AP 2, damage 1 for the Misericordia, or 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 7, AP 2, damage 2 for the Guardian Spears. Currently, as of June 2025, the Sagittarum can be taken in a unit of 5 for 225 points, while the Custodian Guard can be taken in a unit of 4 for 170 points, or a unit of 5 for 215 points. So far in 10th edition, the Sagittarum have been more expensive than the Custodian Guard. Last, we will focus on the abilities. Deep Strike is always good, even though I would use these as a home objective holder or a unit to lurk around in my back lines, it is still better than no Deep Strike. Martial Kata for sustained hits 1 or lethal hits in combat with the Misericordia. Saturation Volleys can be very useful on the right target. Anything hitting on a 3+ or higher or a low amount of attacks. Note that this is -1 to the hit roll in the shooting or the fight phase. If the Sagittarum are destroyed, that -1 to the hit roll does go away. Disintegration Beams sounds great. Devastating Wounds is something we lack as the Adeptus Custodes. Once per game does hurt. Then I think about how it is only 15 total shots. The sustained hits 1 helps us reliably get those 15 hits through. Rolling 6s on 15 dice is an average of 2 to 3 6s. Spikes either way can happen, but a few devastating wounds once per game is not something I would take these in my list for. To be honest, I would take the Custodian Guard abilities on the datasheet over the 2 abilities the Sagittarum have. What would I change to actually make this into a more dedicated shooting unit? To make this into a real dedicated shooting unit, we would need to make a few changes to either the ranged weapons or the abilities, maybe even both. Let's try the bolt caliber first. The AP 1 is the real problem. I would say the low amount of shots too. Take it up to 4 shots with AP 2. We could also change an ability. change disintegration beams from once per game devastating wounds into an all-game anti-vehicle 4+, no devastating wounds. The anti-vehicle and monster 4+ will help them do some chip damage to vehicle and monsters over the course of the game. I do think with a few tweaks, these could make a pretty good shooting unit. That's the datasheet. Let's take a look at the different detachments and how they can buff the Sagittarum. We will start the detachments with the Auric Champions. The Auric Champions detachment rule is Assemblage of Might. At the start of your command phase, select one unit from your opponent's army until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model in Adeptus Custodes character unit from your army makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, add 1 to the wound roll. This is the one and only rule in the entire detachment that will work on this unit. Everything else is Adeptus Custodes character models only. We can join this unit with a Shield Captain on foot, Blade Champion, Trajan Valoris, or Valerian, making the Sagittarum unit into an Adeptus Custodes character unit. +1 to the wound roll for these Strength 5 ranged and melee attacks is great. Once again, the AP1 will hurt these. There's not much we can do about that in this detachment. I give the Sagittarum in this detachment a below average score of 4 out of 10. The next detachment is the Lines of the Emperor. The detachment rule against all odds. Each time an Adeptus Custodes model from your army makes an attack, if there's no other friendly units within 6 inches of that unit, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. Having these as a home objective holder that can shoot into the midboard pairs well with this detachment rule. Have no other friendly units within 6 inches to get that +1 to the hit and wound roll going. The problem is that ranged weapon is only AP1, and that hurts the damage output. There are a few stratagems that do help out the Sagittarum shooting in the Lines of the Emperor detachment. Maneuver and fire for 1 CP, fallback, shoot and charge is great for any Custodes unit. The +1 to the hit and wound from their detachment rule will help the Misericordia to take out light infantry units in combat. We are looking at the fallback and shoot part of this stratagem. If we take this unit in our list, we want it shooting as much as possible. The melee damage is not why we take a Sagittarum unit. Swift as an eagle for our D6 reactive move after being shot, not a stratagem that will help the overall shooting of the Sagittarum. This stratagem is worth mentioning. This is a unit we need to get line of sight on an enemy unit to deal damage. It is not a Custodian Warden hiding behind a wall, getting ready for a 6-inch charge. Swift as an eagle can move us out of line of sight in the enemy turn if they survive the first shots from the enemy unit. Like a lot of our units, Lines of the Emperor is one of the better detachments for the Sagittarum. +1 to the hit and wound from the detachment rule is a big boost to the potential damage, and unlike the Auric Champions, we do not need to attach a character to get that +1 to the wound roll. Some useful but not needed every turn stratagems. I want to try a unit out in a battle report sooner than later. Give them a try, but I can't see them being much better than a 5-man Custodian Guard, even in the shooting phase. I give the Sagittarum a 6.5 out of 10 in this detachment, usable, but still too expensive. Since the Sagittarum is not a Psychona unit, we'll make the Null Maiden Vigil quick and easy. We could bring this unit to add some shooting to a Null Maiden Vigil list. For the most part, if you are going to take Custodes Infantry in a Null Maiden Vigil list, you're going to take Wardens or Bikes or something like that. For the Null Maiden Vigil, I give this a low score of 3 out of 10. Yes, you could bring it to shoot some stuff, but there is much better unit selections for the Null Maiden Vigil than the Sagittarum Custodes. The next detachment is the Shield Host. The Shield Host detachment rule is Martial Mastery. At the start of the battle round, you can select one of the bullet points below. If you do so until the start of the next battle round, that bullet point effects apply. You could either have each Adeptus Custodes model with the Martial Kata ability, melee weapons equipped by that model, gain the critical hits on 5 ability. Or you could take each Adeptus Custodes with the Martial Kata ability, melee weapons equipped by that model, gain +1 AP. This detachment rule does work on the Sagittarum. They do have the Martial Kata ability. The downside is they can only equip the Misericordia, not the most threatening melee profiles. 4 attacks, hitting on 2+, strength 5, AP 2, damage 1. There are some other rules that do help the Sagittarum out in this detachment, especially for the shooting. There is an enhancement in the Shield Host detachment that can really help the Sagittarum. Panoptic Specs allows a bearer's unit to ignore cover. This is a fantastic enhancement on a character joined to the Sagittarum. Ignores cover for the whole unit is just what this unit needs. AP1 will actually make a difference now. I would put this on a shield foot on captain, joined to the Sagittarum, throw a Melta Spear and Presidium Shield to have a Melta shot in that unit as well. Then we have Archaeotech Munitions for 1 CP, where you can either put Sustain Hits 1 or Lethal Hits on your ranged weapons. The Bolt Caliber already has Sustain Hits 1, and they do not stack to make Sustain Hits 2. What we want to choose is Lethal Hits. Now these are better into anything higher than Toughness 5. If we do have the Shield Captain in the unit with Panoptic Specs, we could use the Shield Captain's Strategic Mastery to reduce this stratagem to 0 CP. Into vehicles, the Adeptus Bolt Caliber becomes more viable with Sustain Hits 1, Lethal Hits, and ignores cover. Multi-potentiality for 1 CP are Fallback, Shoot and Charge stratagem. Fallback, Shoot and Charge is a very handy stratagem for a range-focused unit. They won't want to charge back in unless we have a pretty good chance of wiping that unit. The whole point of using this stratagem is to get them out of combat to be able to shoot their guns. Great for those times when the Sagittarum get jumped in melee combat. We have Arcane Genetic Alchemy for 1 CP for a 4+ Fatal Pain to mortal wounds. The detachment rule will help cut their way out of combat, and extra AP1 will take the Misericordia up to AP3 damage 1. A good enhancement with 2 decent stratagems does help make this unit better in the shooting phase. If I was going to take one of these in my list, I would try the Shield Captain with the Panoptic Specs and Sagittarum combo. I give the Sagittarum an overall score of 6 out of 10 in this detachment. An interesting choice, but not the strongest choice. Next up is the Talons of the Emperor detachment. Our detachment rule is Revered Companions. It comes in 2 different parts. The first part is Psychona units from your army gain the following ability: Null Aegis and Aura ability. While any Adeptus Custodes unit is within 6 inches of a Psychona unit, that unit will gain a 5+ Fatal Pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. All other Adeptus Custodes units from your army gain the following ability: Deadly Unity. While a Psychona unit is within 6 inches of this unit, each time a model in that Psychona unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. This detachment rule is not going to buff the damage of the Sagittarum. The protection from the dreaded mortal wounds is what we like. I know I'm repeating myself in this video, but I can't see this unit being more than an objective holder. They want to stay way out of combat range. Having a Psychona model within 6 inches to give that 5+ Fatal Pain to mortals and psychic, we can bring it up to a 4+ with the Empiric Severance stratagem. Let's take a look at some of these stratagems. The first one, Hunt is 1 for 1 CP. You may have heard this in the other detachments. These are not our best melee units. Being able to fall back out of melee range only to light them up with the Adeptus Bolt Caliber shots, this can also save us from a less favorable fight phase. Something scary consolidates into our Sagittarum. For 1 CP, we can fall back and light that unit up with the Bolt Caliber. Talon Pincer for 1 CP. The reactive move if the enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move within 9 inches of the Sagittarum. If my opponent does move within 9 inches with the intention of charging my Sagittarum, I will use this stratagem to make that charge 6 inches harder by moving 6 inches away. We want to be using the Sagittarum's pew-pews as much as possible. Talons Interlock for 1 CP. This is another really good stratagem for the Sagittarum. +1 strength and +1 AP is what these guns really need. 3 shots hitting on 2+, strength 6, AP 2, damage 2 with sustained hits 1 is a great light to medium infantry killing profile. For 1 CP, these become a real shooting threat. Is it worth taking a unit of these in the Talons list? Let's take a look at the final score. Another detachment with some decent rules to support the Sagittarum. Talons Interlock for 1 CP is my favorite stratagem in the Codex to make the Sagittarum into a pure shooting threat. A way to protect the unit from mortal wounds is always a bonus for any Adeptus Custodes detachments. What do the Sagittarum get for a final score in the Talons of the Emperor? Another 6 out of 10. The fact that we need to spend 1 CP on Talons Interlock to get the real magic out of this detachment for the Sagittarum is why I did not score them higher. a decent shooting unit, but not something we really want to spend all these points on. The last detachment is the Solar Spearhead. The detachment rule, Auric Armor, and Moratory Ancients only works on Adeptus Custodes vehicle units or Adeptus Custodes walker units, so the Sagittarum are out of luck for detachment rule. There is an enhancement in this detachment that can buff the overall shooting of the Sagittarum. Honored Fallen for 15 points. This will have to be on a different character model than say a character joined up with the Sagittarum. Adeptus Custodes vehicle model only, while a friendly Adeptus Custodes infantry or Adeptus Custodes mounted unit is within 6 inches of the bear. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, you can reroll the hit rolls of 1. Being within 6 inches for this enhancement though, will give the Sagittarum reroll hits of 1. Combine it with their sustained hits 1 from their ranged weapon, they can get a few more extra hits through. It's not something I would build around though. There are a few stratagems that do buff the shooting of the Sagittarum. The first one is Punishment Inescapable for 1 CP. This will allow the Sagittarum to ignore hit and ballistic skill modifiers, as well as give them the Ignores Cover ability. Ignores hit and ballistic modifiers is a nice bonus. It is that Ignores Cover ability we want. It will help the low AP one of the Bolt Caliber. If I had a unit of 5 in my list, I would be using this stratagem on this unit multiple times per game if I did have the extra CP. There is some rules to support the Sagittarum in the Solar Spearhead detachment, enough to make me want to take a unit in my list. I'm not so sure. Ignores Cover does help them quite a bit, but there's not enough rules to buff this unit to get over the low shot, strength, and AP. A unit I would use in a casual fun game for sure, a competitive setting not so much. I give the Sagittarum an average score of 5 out of 10 for the Solar Spearhead. Let's finish the video with some final thoughts. I hope this video has shown the strengths and the weaknesses for the Sagittarum. I also hope they either get a points drop or even a rework. I doubt they will get a rework until maybe 11th edition, if we even have them in 11th, since they are a Forgeworld model. How have you been using your Sagittarum when you play them? Are there any combinations of leader or rules that you like to use to buff up the Sagittarum? Throw it down in the comments. Subscribe for weekly battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.